All right, folks, let's go on now to Chapter 17, talking about some other voiceover genres that you may encounter if you are looking for work as a voice actor. First question we want to ask is, what is your niche? Some of the more obscure voiceover niches include talking toys, real estate, talking tours, in-store advertising, museums, self-guided walking tours, podcasts, and foreign language dubbing and translation. Remember that list of jobs that we saw that are possible at the beginning of the course? Yeah, there's numerous different ways that you can earn a living as a voice actor. Not all of them are that glamorous, but somebody has to do it, and it could be a decent living if you're really good at it. Now, one big mistake many entry-level voice talent make is that they want to be a voiceover jack of all trades. You're going to discover that you're simply better and more comfortable working in some genres than others. You might be great at book narration, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Maybe you've got a technical mind that you can do things like instruction and that sort of thing using weird terminology, and medical narration would definitely be a specialty. Maybe you would be better at being the voice on the telephone that says, "Your business is really important to us. Please continue to hold." Maybe cartoons is where you're at. All sorts of different ways that you can focus on the way that you use your voice. And just because you can't do a certain aspect of voice work doesn't mean you're a failure as a voice artist. You have to find what your niche is going to be. There's a good little PDF talking about various types of voiceover niches in detail, and I would encourage you to give that a read. Now, let's talk about ADR and looping. They're kind of cousins to each other. They're very similar in different ways. There is a little bit of a distinction. ADR stands for automatic dialogue replacement. It's the process of replacing dialogue for a feature film or for a TV program, whereas looping is more focused on dealing with off-camera voice and with backgrounds and that sort of thing. So you can kind of think about it as ADR being something where you're trying to match the movement of mouth with your voice, with whatever's going on the screen. Looping, not so much worried about that. Now, there is a third sort of category that fits in here. It doesn't really deal with voiceover per se, but just so you know about it, adding of sound effects, replacement of sound effects, that's a term called Foley. Now, some uses for ADR and looping. Why would this be a thing? Well, first off, perhaps in the filming of a particular scene. Maybe what's on the screen is just absolutely perfect, but the sound wound up being completely horrible and they can't use it, but they don't want to throw away that footage. So they may use these tactics to recreate the sound and make the sound quality better. The original delivery of a line, perhaps not very good. They need to replace that. And especially if you're talking about a movie and they're going to adapt it for television or something like that, you may have to edit out profanity. ADR and looping would be used for this as well. An actor's lines may need to be replaced by a sound-alike voice talent who will perfectly match the actor's lip sync. Sometimes the original actor is not available to come back into the studio and redo his or her lines. So they will bring in a sound-alike, and this is one of those cases where the impersonator needs to truly sound like the actor. It has to match pretty much exactly. And those folks that do this kind of work are proficient at matching that voice, matching the attitude and the tone of the actor, and carrying those lines through when they do the redub. Improvisation and acting skills, they would be absolutely essential here because you have to be able to match not just the actor's voice, but the attitude, the emotion. You have to match the action that is going on screen. So the way that you interpret lines has to be done in a very particular way. If this is something that you're interested in, you can check out the PDF that's called ADR on Blackboard. I would encourage you to give that a read. You can get some more detail on what's going on there. In particular, there's a special type of ADR that deals with foreign language, either translating from English into another language or from another language into English. And you can read through the pages in your textbook about that if that's something that you're really interested in. The days of like the Godzilla and Kung Fu movies where the matching up of the, throwing in the English and not really worrying about matching up with what's going on the screen. We try to not do that anymore. We try to make it make sense so that it doesn't weird out the viewer when they're watching the film. So it's a very exacting science. And it's something that you're going to want to pay attention to if this is something that you're interested in. One particular case of ADR would be anime. Anime voiceover requires a conversational style of real people voice characterization and emotional dialogue. The voice actor will be replacing the original, in most cases Japanese, voice track. This requires exceptional acting skills, an excellent sense of timing, a key screen-eye coordination, and thorough understanding of the characters and the storyline. Part of what's happening when you are recording lines for anime is that you have to be able to match what is going on the screen with your voice. So you are trying to create vocals that are matching the mouth movement of what is going on the screen. There's a great video about this with the actor that does several of the voices for Pokemon, and the link for that is in your notes. Highly recommend that you watch that video. Now, telephony, or telephony, however you want to pronounce it. It is the act of various sorts of voice acting on the telephone. And there's 4 different categories here that we'll talk about. First off, message on hold, or MOH. This is where one or more messages, usually with background music, these are things that are being heard when a caller is placed on hold. The whole, please make sure you stay on the line. Someone will be with you as soon as possible. Those types of lines. There's someone that has to record that. So that is a job title. Voice prompts, the automated outgoing messages that provide instructions to a caller. This is a case where the things that you say have to be clean and succinct for the particular items that you are instructing a caller to do in order to tell them to press 1 to make this choice and make 2 for this choice and all those sorts of things. So voice prompts require clear articulation so that the instructions can be understood. IVR, interactive voice response. The caller is greeted by a recorded person who engages the caller in a conversation. This is kind of the replacement for the whole press 1 for this, press 2 for that sort of thing. This also needs to be very clear and concise, where you have different sorts of instructions that are broken out into individual pieces. Sometimes they're strung together in a automated sort of way in order to create intelligible thoughts, to create that quote unquote conversation with the caller. And fourthly, there's concatenation. The voice talent records individual words, short phrases, or sounds, and then computer technology assembles those into sentences that provide instruction to the caller. And this is taking what we're doing with the IVR type of category and being a little more profound with it. It very much is in line with a lot of the different services that tout AI technology in terms of virtual conversation, or just the idea of instead of pressing 1 and 2, you're using your voice as a caller to tell the telephone computer what it is that you want to do. Now, there's a good example of how these things are broken up. There's some audio. That is the link that is in your notes. I would encourage you to take a listen to that. Telephony can be it can be an excellent entry to voiceover work. Scripts are often very short, but the best thing about telephony is that the voice talent will often become the signature voice for a business. It is the first voice you hear when you call in on a telephone, and generally they're not going to have a bunch of different voices at various points throughout the call. They try to keep a consistency with one voice that guides a caller through the entire phone call experience. Now, in new media, we have opportunities for voice work with blogs, website audio, hundreds of other opportunities. It is quickly becoming the standard than it is the exception. As far as media content and delivery and the way that it is changing, basically what's happening, it's kind of a good and bad at the same time, because you have a wealth of opportunity that is now available because of so many different services that are now requiring some sort of interaction, some sort of voiceover for various audio files and video files that are available online. But with those opportunities comes an unprecedented level of competition. It is so easy nowadays to set up a home studio, and it doesn't cost that much to set up a home studio, which means anybody and everybody can try to be a voice artist. This is where it becomes a strong suit for you to be a professional, to know what it is that you're doing, and to be able to stand out from the crowd. Now, besides competition, the biggest challenge to today's voiceover artist is and will continue to be keeping up to speed with the market and all the technologies related to it. So I can tell you that some of the things that you're going to read in this section are already going to be outdated, and the way to really be in the know about what it requires to make it in the online world is to be reading up on it. You know, subscribe to various trade podcasts and keep up to date with the latest tech and some of the different things that you're able to do to be knowledgeable on at least a pretty decent variety of subjects, so that you can be kind of versatile in the types of work that you can do that's going to be comfortable for you and is going to be appealing to a certain type of audience. Being skilled in the art of pricing and negotiation are now vital, more so than ever. And there's kind of a complication here, in that because there is so much competition out there, you can be in danger of having a lot of people that may be interested in your work, but not necessarily willing to pay what your work is worth. When you look at the chapters at the latter half of your book, it goes more into the business of voiceover and what it means to be to try to price things in a way that is fair. Talks about unions and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of people out there that maybe are looking for a voiceover for their website or want some help in creating a certain kind of project, and they may just be looking to get the person that will do it for the cheapest price. That might not be of best benefit to you. So it's something that you're going to have to really be conscious about and make some decisions about what your voice is worth and what you're willing to do, what you're willing to not do, what you're willing to walk away from. It is more important than ever to take a direct and active role in marketing and promoting your own services and your brand. And again, those are things that are covered in the latter chapters of the book. And that's something that if you are interested in voice acting, I would strongly recommend that you take a look at and review. So how do you stay current in a culture that is constantly changing, in an environment that's continually evolving? Well, again, follow blogs that cover the latest developments and trends in new media and social marketing. Read various websites, listen to various audio and video podcasts from those that have a certain amount of experience, those that have a sense of knowing what they're talking about. Also follow tech and new media types of podcasts, not just those that focus on voice acting, but you're seeing here a convergence of technology and talent. And you want to have a pretty well-versed knowledge in both of those areas. Now, there is a more detailed version of this section that you have in your textbook. As a PDF, it is available for you on Blackboard. I would ask you to take a look at it. It's going to cover the history of new media. It's going to cover the impacts of social networking and the voice actor's place in new media. It's a much more in-depth look. So make sure you take a look at that. And that's it. That is chapter 17. So with that and chapter 16, finish up your notes, study questions, get them turned in. Before we meet together for class, make sure you check out the pre-class questionnaire. Send in your thoughts and your questions. They'll help guide our conversation. And I will catch you when we get together and meet for the class on these chapters.